When you think of deadly train collisions, a lot of them would come to your mind. Chase, Maryland, Hinton, and maybe even the 2018 Casey train collision at Amtrak. However, there is one collision that isn't well known, but it should still be documented, as it is fatal and important. This is the story, the 2004 Carrizozo train collision. On February 21st, 2004, Union Pacific Manifest GLP NEP-16 was heading westbound from Topeka, Kansas to El Paso, Texas, where it would then head to Arizona. The train consisted of 93 closed hoppers loaded with grain, with 4 unknown locomotives pulling it. However, we do know the lead unit was an SD-40-2. It left Topeka Yard at 5:34 a.m. the previous day. However, this would be its last departure ever. Meanwhile, in the opposite direction, Union Pacific Eastbound Autorack train AMLKS-18 departed Anaheim, California, bound for Kansas City, where its causes would connect with the KCS manifest. The train consisted of Union Pacific SC60 2193, formerly UP 6038, GP 60 1960, formerly UP 5760, and 78 Autorack cars. It departed Anaheim, California at 9:16 p.m. on February 20th, with the crew called in being 57-year-old engineer Anthony Rodella and 32-year-old conductor Jeffrey Bowler. At first, everything was looking normal. The Autorack train was performing good, all the consist was good, and everything looked perfect. However, this would change forever. The crew of the Eastbound Manifest were doing good up until they reached Texas. Once they passed El Paso's point and signal lines, and when they were heading to New Mexico, the crew said that they were experiencing some issues, and that they were very fatigued. After all, they only got 3 hours of sleep. So, they were having issues with radio communication and being on the line. And after a certain point in New Mexico, all communication was lost. Once both trains approached Carrizozo, New Mexico, the westbound train was given clearance to slow down to 20 miles an hour. This was so the eastbound Manifest Autorack could stop at the red signal and let the westbound pass cleanly without any delay. However, with the crew being completely oblivious, the engineer decided to slow the train down a tiny bit more to 18 miles an hour, and that's when he saw something horrifying. He sees that the eastbound train is on the same track and not stopping, so he decides to throw the train into emergency braking, thinking that a collision could be reduced to minimal damage. However, it was already too late. 7:21 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, the two trains collide, with the eastbound going 35 miles an hour and the westbound going 21 at a combined speed of almost 56 miles an hour, which is pretty powerful to say the least. The SD60 was badly burned, half of it was sheared off, and the cab is gone. GP60 1960 was burned and had significant frame damage, but otherwise was sort of intact. Unfortunately, the 2 crew members in the eastbound UP train were killed. The westbound crew were unharmed, as their train was ahead of the crash. But this begs an important question. What caused this wreck, and why? Once the NTSB arrived at the scene to investigate, they found very obvious signs of misuse of drugs and crew error, because next to Rodella's body, there was a stack of pot marijuana, which is illegal on the Union Pacific, and contributed to the 1987 Chase, Maryland collision. So when test samples came back from the DNA of Rodella's body, they found that marijuana was indeed in his blood. In addition, Rodella himself and conductor Bowler had a lack of sleep. Rodella only had about 5 hours of sleep the previous night, with Bowler having less at only 3 hours. However, in the SD60, there's the reset button, which sort of works like a dead man switch or dead man pedal. If the alert isn't reset after a certain amount of time, a warning will go off, and if it's not reset during that time, the train will automatically stop. It is unknown if this happened or not though, because there weren't specific data on if the resetter was reset or not. But if it was reset, then the crew were probably not able to see it, as it was already reset, and they were incapacitated by that time. Or it is even possible that the SC60 2193's resetter was broken. However, it was later confirmed that the trailing unit behind 2193, UPGP 60 1960, did have a functioning reset, though the case of reset failure on the ST60 is still unknown as of 2021. This wreck seems oddly similar to the 1986 Hinton train collision, because in that wreck, the CN freight crew were incapacitated, and also the deadman switch or pedal was not working. So essentially, this is Hinton 2.0, except in America and less fatal. Eventually though, the westbound crew testified against the situation. What they said is that they blew the horn multiple times trying to get 2193's crew to wake up or become incapacitated again. However, it didn't work, because once the train reached milepost 825, it did not stop. So the only thing the westbound crew could do was wait for impact. On May 13, 2004, the NTSB released a final report on the accident. It said that the eastbound crew was at fault for this accident because they were suffering from fatigue and the engineer was smoking marijuana. It was also found that if the engineer had been smoking marijuana, he could have potentially used the resetter and stopped the accident. In the end, after the accident, ST60 2193 and GP60 1960 were deemed damaged beyond repair and scrapped. However, 1960 lives on. Former Southern Pacific GP60 9742 retained 1960's number in 2004, and it kept that number from that year up to 2014 until it was renumbered to 1094 and still operates to this day as of 2020. This accident proved to many that anything could happen on the rails. Even though Hinton, KC, and the Chase Maryland wreck are popular and deadly, there is still a chance for even deadlier crashes or less deadly crashes anywhere in the world. It's been a little over 17 years since this accident, but hopefully we don't see another wreck in Carrizozo or any wreck like this ever